Morning guys, well, I'm just having a coffee and watching some YouTube videos, and thought I'd just share kind of what I've been up to and talk about dressing for the winter. I've been ice fishing a couple times this past week. Went out with the Wooded Beardsman and one Wildcrafter. Went out after some splake. Caught more perch than splake, but that's just the way fishing goes. It was about minus 25, sunny and no wind, so it wasn't too bad, and it did warm up a little bit in the afternoon, but it was still minus 20 Celsius anyways. And I went out a few days ago, 3 or 4 days ago I guess, and it was about minus 10, but it was really windy on the lake. And yesterday I went out and it was about minus 23, 24, and they were saying that it was minus 40 with the wind chill. That's how windy it was out there. So it's important to dress properly for the winter. Especially, you need to dress especially for the circumstances where you are and what you're going to be doing. You don't want to wear really heavy stuff if you're going to do high impact and hard work. Because you're just going to sweat and then you're going to get cold. As Les Stroud says, you sweat, you die. And that's just fact. It's very hard to dry in the winter once you're wet, because that means peeling off your layers. And that's where dressing properly and wearing proper clothing really comes into play. The old school thought was cotton was kind of the king. And really nowadays they figured out that cotton is just about the worst thing you can wear when you're out. Wools are the best because they'll keep you warm even when they get wet. They take a little bit to dry, but they will dry, and like I said, they'll keep you warm. Down's another really good insulator, but doesn't do well when it gets wet. So it's important to dress in layers. I like to wear something right against my skin, usually a one-piece long john, some sort of polyester or something along those lines, but wool would be probably the best option. I have different thicknesses. Usually when it's minus 25 and I'm outside and I know I'm going to be out for the day, I have a pair of polar thermal fleece that I like to wear. But once you start to sweat in them, you're cold. They don't repel the moisture from your skin, and yeah, I don't try and wear them if I'm going to be doing any real hiking. I like to wear a pair of jogging pants on top of them. I find that little bit of extra thickness helps keep some of the cold maybe off from my snow pants to getting towards my long johns, or even just work pants, but I like to wear jogging pants when it's real cold. For my top, I like to wear the same polar thermal fleece, and then I like to wear a long sleeve shirt, just a thin polyester. To be honest, most of the time I'm wearing a cotton poly blend, but I try to avoid cottons. Then I like to wear this ugly sweater. It's pretty thick, and I find that it really keeps me warm. And then for a jacket, I don't have a winter jacket. Yeah, I live in Northern Ontario and I don't own one. But what I like to wear is multiple jackets. I have a button-up, we call them Powassan dinner jackets, but like a bush jacket, the plaid ones with the white fleece stuff inside them that buttons up. I like to wear that on top of the sweater, inside my snow pant bibs, and the bibs help keep everything tight, not tight but snug against your body, and I find that helps to hold some of the heat. You do want a bit of an air gap, so I mean you don't want to be really snug. And then on top of that, I like to wear something that's got some warmth but mainly blocks wind. It can be minus 5, but if it's windy you're gonna get cold. Minus 20, 25, and minus 30, if it's windy out, you're gonna freeze. And there's not much you can do to beat wind. Good coats, some just the wind goes right through. So I like to make sure that I have a good shell that blocks the wind. And usually what I wear is I think it's a Mech uplink. It's the hoodie. If I can find it, I'll put a link down below. But it's just a very thin coat. You can basically stuff it into your pocket. I keep it when I'm traveling up for work, because I can stick it just in my laptop bag, and it's nice and small that way. But it holds the heat, it reflects the heat back in, and it doesn't let a lot of the moisture out. So you do have to be careful that you're not working too hard wearing it, because the inside will frost up once you take it off. So that's something to consider. My snow pants are Mustang Survival snow pants. I've had them for probably close to 20 years now. Over 15 for sure. I really like them. They do get a little bulky and cardboardy, if that's a word, when it's really cold. The foam inside doesn't tend to bend too much. But I like to have them, especially if I'm pushing my luck on thin ice. Right now we've got 8 to 10 inches, so it's not really a concern. But venturing into new lakes, you never know where there's a spring or any of that sort of thing. And just that extra reassurance of if I fall through, I have a chance of getting back up. So I like to wear those. They do a good job of cutting wind as well. For boots, I'm wearing, I think they're muck. I think they're good for -40. They're kind of the rubber neoprene type boot. They're alright boots. I'm not a big fan of them. I found that the sticks and stuff can poke them pretty easy when you're trying to trap, especially around beaver houses and through thick brush. I've got 2 holes in mine up near the top in the middle neoprene area, so it doesn't really affect a whole lot of cold coming in. But I do have to watch that I'm not walking in water, so you know, those are things to consider. I like to wear a good toque. Doesn't really matter the temperature. I find when I'm on a lake, it's always windy, and the wind will eventually bother my ears. So I've been wearing a aviator style toque with the fur inside and the fur frill. I find that works pretty well. It keeps a lot of the heat in. I like to wear that -20 or colder, and if not, just a regular. It doesn't really matter too much. Just something to keep the wind off my ears more than anything. Mitts, when I'm out ice fishing especially, I like to bring multiple pairs, because when you start getting your hands in the minnow buckets and grabbing fish out of the holes or putting minnows on your hooks, your hands get wet, they get cold, and you stick them in your mitts, and after a little while your mitts start to get wet, and then it's hard to get them warm. So I generally bring a pair that I'm going to use for as much of the day as possible, and then I'll bring a big pair that I can just kind of have as an emergency backup, that I can just get my hands in. They're big, they're bulky, they're not good to work in, but they warm up. And small things that I want to keep warm, I can stick inside them, and just to help keep them from freezing up. Socks, I like to wear a pair of, usually I wear a pair of cotton socks with a pair of wool socks on the outside. I really don't like wool against my skin too much. I don't know what it is about wool, but just the thought of a kid pulling on his mittens, oh, just gives me the chills with his teeth. But so usually I try and wear either a thick pair of wool socks that are like merino wool, because that's a lot softer, or I'll wear a thin pair of maybe polyester socks with a good pair of wool socks on top. Like I said, I try and avoid the cottons. And that's about it. I like to pack a little bit extra, you know, mitts. Mitts get wet very easy because you're always working with your hands. So if you got an auger, you're cleaning holes, you know, it's sometimes it's just a habit to grab something and your hands get wet. So an extra pair of mitts, maybe a neck warmer or a scarf. And I generally bring a couple extra coats that I'll leave in my truck, or I'll pack in the sleigh or my bag, depending on how far I am from the truck to where I'm fishing. So just a few tips for dressing in the winter. It's very important to have layers. The more layers the better, because it's a lot easier to peel them off if you get hot than it is to find layers when you're out in the bush. So just a quick video. Cheers guys, and if you're out on the water, be safe. I'm sure for the most part of Ontario and Canada there's enough ice to be out skidooing and all that good stuff. I know Nipissing's good, there's trucks out on Nipissing and all the rest, so I'm sure there's probably 10 inches anywhere from my area up anyways. So be safe out there. Careful around open water and beaver ponds and creeks. Those places usually have thinner ice. So it's about minus 28 this morning. We gotta do some work in the house. So enjoy your day, and we'll see you after.